Hello and welcome to episode 17 of Small Screen Cinema with Tabitha and Dad. We are going to look at a fantastic sequel to a theatrical production. I don't think this has ever been done as far as a TV movie being a sequel of a theatrical release. So you want to go ahead and tell everybody what you are going to talk about today.
We are talking about Trackdown, Finding the Goodbar Killer. It's a 1983 TV movie sequel to the 1977 theatrical film Looking for Mr. Goodbar. And I
Which,
didn't even realize this when I put it on, but it is a New Year's movie, so it's appropriate.
hey, yeah. And I do want to say, I saw the original Looking for Mr. Goodbar decades ago,
Hmm.
and it was very graphic, both violent and sexual. And I was wondering, how are they going to do this sequel as a TV movie? But it actually worked pretty good. I was kind of impressed.
Well, because it's a mostly a police procedural. It's not,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But it did keep the integrity. Integrity is a weird word for this. Integrity for what happened without going into the muck. I just thought it was very, that part was well crafted.
Okay. Looking for Mr. Goodbar is a drama starring Diane Keaton, and it's about a school teacher and her sexual exploits. It's a very 70s movie in the sense that it's really a character piece with not a whole lot of plot going on. You're just following this person around, more of an actor showcase than anything else. The movie ends with one of the men she picks up murdering her in her apartment after he is unable to get an erection. The movie was based on a novel, which in turn was based on the true story of the 1973 murder of teacher Roseanne Quinn. Her killer was caught within months, but he died by suicide in his cell before going to trial. All of that leads us to Trackdown. This was written by Albert Rubin. Rubin was also the writer of Foster and Laurie, so he's done the based on a true story thing before. Rubin was a script supervisor for shows like The Adventures of Robin Hood, Have Gun, Will Travel, and The Buccaneers. He wrote for shows like Room 222 and The Defenders, and he also wrote and produced some of the what's that?
It's room 222.
Room 222, whatever. I've never watched it.
Sorry.
Sorry. He also wrote and produced some of the Kojak TV movies from the 80s. And the movie was directed by Bill Persky. Persky was a writer, director, and producer. He worked on That Girl and Kate and Allie. Those were the shows he was most heavily involved in. He also directed episodes of Welcome Back, Kotter, Alice, and Who's the Boss?
By the way, I don't know if you've ever seen many episodes of Kate and Allie.
Mhm.
So underrated. It was a really good show, and nobody ever talks about it anymore.
I've actually never watched Kate and Allie.
Oh, it's a sitcom, but it's more serious and subtle humor, I guess you
Hmm.
could say.
Okay. He also wrote a made-for-TV adaptation of The Man Who Came to Dinner. Persky is still with us today, and he is 94 years old. The movie stars George Segal as John Grafton. I know him mostly from this 90s sitcom he was on called Just Shoot Me. But he was also quite, a decent star in his day. He was in movies like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Fun with Dick and Jane, Roller Coaster, and a really good movie called California Split. His last big role was as a regular on The Goldbergs, and he passed away in 2021 at age 87. Next, we have Shelly Hack as her name is Logan Gay. Shelly Hack was one of the later Charlie's Angels. She was Kate Jackson's replacement, and not to be too harsh, but who can replace Kate Jackson? I'm pretty sure she was only there for a season. She was in a couple notable movies like The King of Comedy, The Stepfather, and Time After Time. She guest starred on shows like LA Law, The Love Boat, and Sequest. She also worked with Bill Persky in another TV movie called Found Money that also came out in 1983. Hack is still with us today. Her character is really not in it that much, though. I guess it was after Charlie's Angels, maybe, so they were like, hey, we've got a hot angel in our movie. I don't know. Then we have Tracy Pollan as Eileen Grafton, and Tracy Pollan is Michael J. Fox's wife. They've been together for forever.
And I had never put this together. She looks, she resembles, doesn't look like, but she resembles Karen Allen. And
Maybe
when
a
I
little
first
bit.
saw her, I thought, is that Karen? No, that's Michael J. Fox's wife.
She had a recurring role on Family Ties. That's how they met. I remember seeing her in a TV movie about Natalie Holloway. Do you remember that case?
Yes.
Thank you. No one else does. Everyone looks at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, this was a big deal in 2007 or 8 when it happened.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, she's worked in a lot of TV movies over her career. Next, we have Shannon Presby as John Charles Turner, and he has a very small filmography on IMDb. He did guest spots on Eight is Enough, Different Strokes, and Chips. He was the lead in a movie called The New Kids. Have you ever seen The New Kids?
I don't think so.
Okay, so it's him and Lori Loughlin, convicted felon Lori Loughlin, as two teenage orphans, and they go to live with their aunt and uncle at their theme park, carnival, something like that, and they get bullied by everybody to the point where all the other kids are trying to kill them at the end.
Jeez, that took a dark turn.
Yeah, it's something. And finally, we have Barton Heyman as Alan Cahill. This guy was in a ton of movies. He was in The Exorcist, Basketball Diaries, Dead Man Walking, Cruising, and Let's Scare Jessica to Death. He was also the narrator for some Dr. Seuss videos, like he did the narration for Hop on Pop, One Fish, Two Fish, and the ABCs. He passed
Wow.
away in 1996 at age 59. Trackdown Finding the Goodbar Killer aired October 15th, 1983. You'd think they would have waited until January, but whatever. It ran against The Love Boat and Fantasy Island on ABC, and on NBC it ran against a show called The Rousters and The Yellow Rose. Both of those were one season shows, but I did look up The Rousters. It's about Wyatt Earp the Third working at a carnival and also a bounty hunter.
I can't see how that didn't last.
Right? Okay. So the movie starts out with John Grafton watching his daughter Eileen ice skating, and we get on-screen text informing us that the following broadcast is based on fact. It is not related to the Judith Rosner novel Looking for Mr. Goodbar, and Miss Rosner has no connection with it. That text will be at the end too. Followed by more text that reads, the mood of the holiday season in New York was shattered by the shocking murder of a young school teacher. It is remembered as one of the most brutal crimes of the 70s. I don't know about that. This is the story of that crime and the investigation that followed. And then it very abruptly cuts to Gloria playing over the credits. It was a little bit of a mood whiplash. So after that, the Grafton family are at home arguing about where Eileen is going to go to college. She wants to go away to college in Syracuse. John doesn't like that. He wants her to stay living at home. The mom is on her side. She's like, she needs to go off and live her own life. And John's like, nope, she's too young. And then we cut to a bar where the lead character from Looking for Mr. Goodbar, who in this film is named Mary Alice Nolan, in Looking for Mr. Goodbar, her name was Teresa Dunn, I think it was. And of course, in real life, it was Roseanne Quinn. She's going home with a man who will end up killing her, but it skips the actual murder scene, which it does not do in the original. And it cuts to the next morning where her body is lying in bed with blood all over it. The killer washes blood off his hands in the bathroom before leaving her apartment. He goes home and tells his lover.
Yeah. At first I thought that was his dad,
Me too.
and then I thought I don't know if it's a friend or lover. I It was a little ambiguous, but then when they did kiss, I guess you're going to bring that up.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, they're lovers, number one. Number two, that may have been the first uh, same-sex kiss on network TV. I was surprised.
I was too when I saw it. I mean, not at first, but then it kind of sunk in. I'm like, wait, this is 1983.
Oh yeah, you didn't
They
see.
just kissed. There's no mistaking what just happened. But anyway, he gets home. He tells Alan Cahill, the guy, that he killed that girl. And Alan is like, yeah, whatever. He doesn't believe him at all. He ignores him and he heads off to bed. Back at the Grafton home, John's wife Betty informs him that she's leaving him. So it's better for Eileen to go away to college anyway.
Okay, this is what I thought was funny. That it's after supper, and she says, "Well, she needs to go away to college." No, I don't think so. Yeah, I'm gonna leave you. And what are you gonna do? You gonna cook for her and stuff like that? I'm thinking, not only are you leaving him, you are leaving her. You're leaving the whole family. You're like done with this.
That's what I said. Like, what she says is basically, you're a good guy and all, but I'm going to be 40 soon.
Yeah, I'm gonna be 40 soon.
Which I took to mean I want to go out and sow some wild oats before I'm too old to do it. So it really does come off as she wants him and their daughter out of her life so she can have some fun. It's really kind of terrible. Back with the killer, Turner, Alan brings him breakfast the next morning and is like, no, seriously, what did you do last night? And he keeps telling him, I killed that girl. And Alan keeps brushing him off until Turner flips out, jumps up, and screams in his face that he has to help him get to Florida. Since, as we all know, murder is legal in Florida. Alan tells him that he's like, okay, I'll help you. Like, calm down. But he's still not fully believing him, or maybe he's just in denial. Uh, John drives over to the scene of this crime. He greets the other cop, wishing them a happy new year. They don't, they can't tell much about who Mary Alice Nolan is yet. Like, they don't know where she works, who her family is. She was found by the super, and she died from multiple stab wounds. Like, they don't have fingerprints or any physical evidence. What they do find is a hand-drawn picture of Popeye. And was it dated? Because for whatever reason, he's like, this is evidence. I'm going to walk around with this the rest of the movie.
I I'll get back to. I don't want to get to it now, but I'll get to the Popeye thing a little bit later. There's kind of a loophole or plot hole there, so I'll get back to it later.
Okay. Um, he spends a whole whopping 2 minutes at this crime scene before he just leaves. I don't know what I guess he's like, this drawing's all I need. I'm out. And he heads to the station. And inside, the lieutenant in charge gets everybody's attention and says that Mary Alice is the first homicide of the year. What does she win? Woo!
You win a free burial. Yes, free burial.
Congratulations, Miss Nolan. His point is the press is going to be all over it because of that. So he starts handing out assignments to officers, and then we get a short sequence of various detectives canvassing the areas, looking for witnesses, neighbors. Nobody's really getting anywhere. Back at Alan's house, Turner is packing his bag and getting ready to leave, and Alan asks him to let him know when he gets settled. Then we find out that Turner has a wife who is expecting. Alan gives him money for a bus ticket, and he tells him next time you want to take off, don't feel like you have to make up some crazy story like you murdered someone. And then they kiss, and Turner goes to leave, but he turns and he said, I didn't make it up. And then he leaves. And Alan looks disturbed, like, really doesn't want to believe this, but he's starting to. Turner heads to the subway and just passes a couple of detectives looking for witnesses. Now it is night at the station, and John is still working in a mostly empty squad room. The lieutenant asks how the case is shaping up, and John tells him that Mary Alice was a quiet school teacher, and he wonders why she wasn't still living at home. And now I have a question. I know this is an issue with her parents in the original movie, but was this a thing that you know of in the 70s that your daughter should just stay home until they get married? They shouldn't be out living on their own?
I don't know. I was at that point in the 70s, I was too young to really care about it.
Hmm.
Um, I think in my family, we were not just encouraged, we were all expected we're going to go to college. That was just the way we were raised. And it's weird because my oldest sister, when I think a semester at SIUE, which is local for us, and I don't even think she finished a semester. My other sister, she just went a couple of years to JUCO and then got a certificate in court reporting. And I was the only one that went off to college. And they got much better grades than me. They were more academically inclined than I was. Um, but I don't remember if it was a thing. Uh,
I kind
for,
of
for
thought of that as
females to
maybe a
stay,
generation before that, you know?
yeah,
Like the
yeah,
50s, you stay home until you're married, but the 70s,
yeah. It seems a little late for that kind of stuff, but
yeah. I was just wondering. Uh, the lieutenant says that she either let the guy in or brought him home and therefore was a slutty, slutty slut whore. John says, well, maybe she had non-slutty intentions, like giving him a cup of coffee. And they're like, no, she was at a singles bar, she was slutting it up. Um,
but
yeah, he's
remember, in the 70s, it was understood that men need sex, so they're not sluts. Women need to protect, so, you know, protect themselves. So if they give into that, they're sluts.
yeah, I know.
So she was obviously a slut.
Yeah, I mean, make it make sense, but
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
It's fine.
The female sex drive didn't really start until 2002.
Everyone knows that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's when God said, "Okay, you can have it."
Like,
So,
all right, you might as well enjoy it. The lieutenant tells John to go home to his own family. So he calls Betty and says he's going to be late. And she's like, well, thanks for at least calling. He goes back to Mary Alice's apartment and is examining her belongings. And it becomes clear that Mary Alice is reminding him of Eileen. Meanwhile, Alan is reading about the murder in the paper. He's starting to get really freaked out, so he calls up her apartment and mistakenly asks for Mary Ann Nolan. And John is recording this because he's there. He picks up the phone. He says she's not here right now. And he asks for Alan's name to see if she can call him back. And he declines and says he'll just call later, hangs up. He keeps this recording around too. He listens to it quite frequently throughout the movie. John finally rolls up home to find Eileen sitting up, very upset about her parents' impending divorce. I guess her mom told her and then left her crying on the couch.
yeah, I
Nice. Like, I don't think the mom is supposed to be coming off as uncaring, but she is.
yeah, especially in the first half of the movie, it softens in the second half. But the first half of the
Yeah,
movie is like, gosh, man, she is ice cold.
right. John tells, he sits down with her. He tells Eileen that he hasn't been the best husband in the world. And he guesses he always knew that when she left home, it was gonna shake things up. And then Betty interrupts and is instantly pissed off. he's like, "Oh, this is about you not wanting her to go to college." They're like, and I'm like, "No, that's not even what they were talking about. Why are you yelling? Calm down." But he
Well,
doesn't. Oh,
I
go
do
ahead.
want to interject. They do give the mom some leeway because the daughter is 17, 18, getting ready to go to college. And she's been married to this guy who perpetually has a 14-inch cigar sticking out of his mouth 24/7, which has to be agitating. He walks around the whole movie with a huge cigar.
But he doesn't even say that. He's just again reiterates that Eileen is too young to be going away by herself. That he says that John just doesn't want things shaken up. He tells them about Mary Alice and that Eileen also wants to be a school teacher. And I'm like, okay, Mary Alice wasn't targeted because she was a school teacher, so
She was targeted because she was a slut.
yes, exactly. Then he tells Eileen to just go to bed. The next morning, John has packed his bags, which surprised me because it seemed like the mom was the one who was going to take off.
Yeah,
But whatever. And Eileen sees him off, and Betty watches from the windows. And I guess he just moves into a hotel for that. I lived in a hotel for a while and I liked it. Alan hears on the news more about the killing and how she was stabbed 17 times, and he's like, huh, he just kind of keeps going on with his life. Back at her apartment, her cousin is trying to break in, and the uniform cops stop him and take him down to the station to talk to the detectives because I don't think they've talked to her, really been in touch with her family yet.
yeah.
Uh,
At
s
one point at the beginning of it, they said they were trying to contact the family, and then
mhm,
you don't hear anything like they've contacted the family or anything until this
no,
cousin shows up at the door.
yeah. He does give them more information about her that she taught at a school for deaf children, and he points them in the direction of a man named Trick Johnson, a man she had a fight with. She had him arrested for theft, and he threatened her when he got out.
And you know he's guilty. Why?
Because he's black?
Because he's black.
Yep.
Yes.
And they're like, black guy? We're
Yeah,
on
yeah.
that.
That was the first time that the police were actually like motivated. Oh yeah, we'll go get this guy.
John heads over to the school where she worked, and that's where she encounters Logan Gay, a fellow teacher. And this is a weird scene. She is instantly weirdly hostile towards him.
Yeah, that's I I don't know. They never explain. I mean, she says, yeah, she does give some story about her dad working with the union, but she has this unreal anger towards him because he's a cop. All
Yeah,
this cynicism, like, geez.
and she keeps like sort of changing what she's mad about. It's really weird.
Yeah, and he comes off, at least to me, in his interactions with her in this movie, he comes off as creepy, like creepy old man being too friendly to younger hot woman.
He is noticeably older than her, yeah. Um, he questions her about Mary Alice, and she's like, "What's the point of your questions? Do you even solve murders? Isn't Mary Alice just a statistic? In 2 days, no one's even gonna remember her." And I'm like, "Did you hate her or something?" It's such a bizarre interaction. Does she not want this killer caught? Is she the killer? Obviously, she's not, but it's just all weird. And
Well,
then
when you think about it, though, she's probably still angry she got fired from Charlie's Angels.
probably, yeah,
Only
I
three
would be.
years later, man.
He asks her another question if she ever mentioned Trick Johnson, and then she says, quote, "Boy, you just go straight in. What do they do? Wind you up and point you?" Ma'am, he's trying to solve a murder. Do you want small talk? I don't. First she's mad. I don't even know. You
And
told, and she told him she didn't have much time to talk.
yeah, so he got direct with her, and then she just
And anyway, this also is unintentionally made me laugh. She doesn't remember a guy named Johnson until he's like a black guy, and she's like, "Oh yeah, the black guy. Yeah, sure." God. Um, and he reasonably, in my opinion, asked, "Do you even care about her?" And
yeah.
she's like, "Mary Alice was my friend." And I'm like, "You have not acted like it, but okay."
And then at the beginning of their conversation, she says, "We tried to be friends." Like they didn't
Right.
gel. I,
Yeah.
I didn't get her.
No, she was badly written character. Back at the station, the lieutenant reads Mary Alice's initial complaint about Johnson and how he hit her and stole her camera. And I cannot remember if that happened in the movie or not. I don't remember. I
Okay.
haven't seen
And
it in a bit.
by the way, we're like half an hour, 40 minutes into the movie at this point,
Hmm.
and I've already decided I've met one character I actually like, and it turned out to be the cousin, the
Mm.
who had a very small minor role. And I'm thinking, I don't like any of these characters. I don't like the wife. I don't like the detective. I don't like Shelley Hack, even though I don't know what she's doing in this movie. And Tracy Pollan, I'm sympathetic towards her, but it's not like there's something interesting going on there. The
No,
cousin at
she
least
doesn't
has
have
some
a lot of
passion about
agency.
stuff. I thought, okay,
No, that's fair. That's fair actually. Um, so we cue another montage of cops on the streets questioning people about Johnson if they know him, where they can find him. Meanwhile, Eileen is waiting for her dad at the station. The lieutenant greets her and invites her to wait in his office. He brings her some coffee, and this girl is still crying. Now, listen, your parents getting divorced sucks, but you are 18. Just, get over it. Eileen says she asked her mom if she would change her mind if dad got another job. Mom said, well, he would never do that, which isn't an answer, but okay. And she asks if the lieutenant can talk to him. And he says, sure, I'll do what I can. On the streets, John gets a tip from an informant, I guess, about where Johnson is. And he finds him up on a rooftop. He goes up there with no backup and spots him. He chases him around very, very slowly because, again, the guy's over 40, it looks like. And this Johnson is clearly much younger and in way better shape than him. But then I guess he did have some backup because a different cop ends up catching him. They bring him in and question him. He waives his right to an attorney, which is stupid. Always, always get a lawyer before you talk. That is
that's
your right.
because
You should exercise it.
that's because you and I have listened to way too many true crime podcasts
Yeah.
of people saying, I didn't do anything wrong. I don't need a lawyer. And next thing you know, they're framed. So,
Yep. Hmm. He says he doesn't know what he was doing on New Year's. And John, I guess to your point, really freaks him out by just staring at him with this giant guitar in his cigar in his mouth. I mean, I would be freaked out if I saw a guy with a guitar in his mouth too. So, um, they bring in the doorman from Mary Alice's building, and he sort of identifies Johnson. He says he's not really sure, and he's like, she brought up so many guys being a whore like she was, and John listens to the recording he has of Alan's voice again. He's not convinced that this is their killer. In Florida, Turner is reading about, I guess, the arrest in the paper, and then I guess he thinks it's safe to leave Florida, where there is no extradition to other states. At the station, the other cops are congratulating John on catching the guy, even though technically the other cop caught him. And I will give John this much. Another cop starts insulting that hoe, Mary Alice, and he's not having any of that. He like starts to attack him for that, which good for him. Of course, he ruins that immediately by sitting outside his soon to be ex wife's house waiting for her to get back from a date, which is
That,
creepy.
that's creepy, yes.
Yeah, don't do that. And surprisingly, she takes this very well, which is not really in keeping with who she was in the first half of this movie, but okay.
Yeah,
I kind of,
this is where it flips. You're right. This is where she flips.
yeah,
Suddenly she's like, "Oh yeah, okay, well, hey, this is my boyfriend. This is my husband. I guess you won't be coming in. Well, you want to come in? Yeah." So
yeah. I mean, you would expect her to blow up at him. I would have. And she seems to find it kind of cute that he was jealous, and she invites him in. He asks if she ever cheated on him. She assures him that she didn't. He starts to open up to her about the case and that he's unsure if they caught the right guy. And then she says, if you want to spend the night, you can. Okay. And he probably rightly declines, saying that it will confuse things, and then leaves.
I I had that invitation not from your mother, but from my second ex-wife, and there was a move made, and I packed. I said, "What are you doing?" I just want to tell you I appreciate you. I said, well, then send a postcard. I'm leaving. This doesn't happen anymore. This when you said we're getting a divorce, that's the way I interpreted it. No more fun times. So
Yeah, I don't get that. People who still hook up with their exes, I'm like, what are you doing? You know it's not gonna work. Whatever.
I heard a comedian say once that people who do that, it's like going to the refrigerator, taking a swig of milk and a sour, putting it back in the refrigerator, thinking, oh, maybe next week it'll be better.
The next morning, John's in the lieutenant's office, and I probably should have got that guy's name. He's in a lot of scenes, but I just wasn't thinking about it at the time. He tells him that he's not living at home. He says that he starts talking about how his mother always stayed at home, even when he and his sisters grew up and moved out. And I was starting to get annoyed at him, but the lieutenant asks if he figures if it's good enough for his mother, it should be good enough for your wife. And he does say that no, he doesn't think that. I think he's just trying to work through it all in his head. He brings them back around to Mary Alice. He says there's really no actual evidence against Johnson. And the lieutenant says, well, Johnson's the best we've got. Dude, that's not the attitude one should bring in to trying to solve a murder case. Like, I don't have anyone better, so let's lock up this guy. John still wants to find the guy who made the Popeye drawing. So he goes and asks if Logan can help him out. He shows her the drawing. She says she thinks she might have met the artist when they were having lunch one day, and she might recognize him if she saw him again. So then we see Turner at the bus station with his pregnant wife, and she's on the phone with someone talking about how strange he's been acting, how scared he's been acting, and this poor woman. So John has lunch with his daughter, and he asks her to please stay home. Don't go away to school. Dude, stop it. She says she can't stay home forever, and she asks why can't he trust her? Has she been a problem? Does she have any behavioral issues? And he says, no, no. And she says, then why can't you trust that I can take care of myself and that she's not Mary Alice? And he said that she's a lot like her. And then he goes on to describe similarities that have nothing to do with why the woman was murdered. Like, your
uh,
grandmother lives on the same street as her parents. So what? It means nothing. Um, she asks why Mary Alice left home, and he says her father's been asking himself the same question. So, A, he has been in contact with the family, and B, it's because the father was an asshole who hit her for staying out overnight one night. That's from the movie. She's
yeah.
like, you know what? Fuck this, and packed her stuff and rightly left. Yeah, her parents were a huge part of the original movie, but again, this movie's not really about her. That night, John and Logan go out to a bunch of clubs looking for the artist, supposedly, and this goes on for quite a while.
Okay,
And
and they're going to these quintessential 1983 clubs, Laura Branigan songs, you still have the last vestiges of disco lighting going on in these clubs. There's a lot of dancing and everything. She looks the part. He's in a three-piece freaking suit, looking like the biggest dork and the oldest guy in all these clubs. So anyway, keep going with a big
well, I
cigar hanging out of his mouth.
I was just gonna say at one of these clubs, the band starts playing Glenn Miller.
Yes,
Well,
yes, but
this is
they
still 1970, whatever. I know the movie's 83, but the time period would still be 1977.
but they were in a different kind of bar at that time. They were in kind of a swing band
All right,
type
fair
bar.
enough. I was just caught off guard by that.
He was more in his element, There were old people there like him. So
Logan starts to complain that she's tired and not having any fun, so John leads her out on the dance floor. And they end the night in a more quiet bar, just talking. She insults cops because her dad was a union man, and she said cops are only good for busting heads. She's right. And he's like, no, cops are the good guys. And I'm like, are they though? Are they really? No, they're not. And then he asks her if she went away to college or stayed home. And she said she lived in a dorm. And he starts talking about his daughter. And she said that you shouldn't worry so much about her. And then she asks how long has he been separated from his wife? Not very long at all. And then she tells him that he is a good guy. He drives her home and he double parks. He tells her she's beautiful, and she tells him she didn't know they made men like him anymore. So old fashioned. And
this
then they
is
kiss.
the and all their interactions are awkward. There
Yeah,
is nothing smooth that has happened, and all of a sudden she tells him, so old fashioned, and then they kiss.
yeah,
I don't know if I would have taken that as a compliment. So anyway, keep going.
yeah. So they're kissing, and she asks if he's going to find a legal place to park. He hesitates, and then she's like, oh, so now I'm a whore, am I? I feel sorry for your daughter. And she like storms out of the car, and I'm like, what is happening? What is happening? So she gets out of the car. He pursues her and kisses her to shut her up. She asks what he wants from her. He says he doesn't know. She goes up the front steps, that then changes her mind, goes back down, takes his hand, and they go inside. And that is a wrap on Shelly Hack. You will never see her or hear about her character again in this movie. So thank you for your contribution.
Okay, this is my philosophy. That character was real to the story.
Mhm.
Um, had a minor role in going to bars to try to help him find this, but wasn't really anything there. But he made sure that she was written into the story so people could see that at his advanced age, which was late 40s, early 50s, dressed as a dork with a huge, stupid cigar, being so old fashioned, he could still get a young hottie. So I thought, okay, what was the purpose of her character? Just to prove that an old man could still bust a nut on a desperate woman? I don't know.
I'm sure they just thought they'd get better ratings if they're like, we got an angel, we got a hot angel. Come on, watch our movie. It's very strange. And there, okay, so I found two channels that uploaded this movie on YouTube. There's one, it's just the movie. There's another one that's got includes all the commercials and stuff.
And that's the one I watched, and I watched all the commercials that were cool.
Okay, but before the movie started on that one, they had a promo like coming up next. The cop uh trying to solve the crime and the woman who can lead him to the killer. And then I watched the movie and I'm like, that didn't happen at all. That did not happen, you liars.
Said could, didn't say did. The woman who could lead him to the killer.
Oh, fair enough. So he goes back to that bar and he finally finds the artist of the Popeye drawing. And I don't remember if the drawing was part of the original movie either. I probably should have watched it again before I watched this one, but whatever. The guy says he drew it as a joke for a couple of guys who were in the bar one night.
Okay, time
And
out. We're getting close to the end of the movie, and this is only the second character that I find very interesting.
I agree. I like
The
I like
artist,
this guy.
he was, it was fun watching him on camera, but keep going.
Yeah. He says there was no girl with him. It was just two guys who said they were brothers. Yeah, sure. John asks if he could draw those two guys from memory, which seems like no, because that would have been a while ago, or at least a few weeks. I don't know how long it's been, but at least a couple of weeks. But he obliges, and then he jokes, and he's like, "Let's see, were they black or white?" So I'm like, "Oh, you." And then John asks if he could work with a police artist the next morning to get these drawings out to the public. Yeah, and I did write down he's very amiable. He's very helpful. I like him.
Yeah. And I've seen that actor in other things and doing
Mm.
small character roles like that. So, but he's probably dead now. But anyway, keep going.
Oh. Cue montage number 3 of cops showing the drawings around the neighborhood. And he finally finds someone who recognizes the guy. It's a waitress, right?
Yes,
And they were at a restaurant where she worked, and she doesn't remember the names, but everybody pays with credit cards at this restaurant. So they start going through receipts with their high-tech 70s computers.
because they knew that she told them this they were huge tippers. So they're
Oh,
looking for
right, right.
tips. Yeah.
One of the other cops is like, I didn't know this many people had credit cards. And I'm like, wow, what a different world.
Yeah.
So finally, John tracks down Alan. Alan, who is looking at his own sketch staring back at him in the newspaper. He does not answer the door when John knocks. John leaves his number on a business card and slips it under the front door. Alan wisely gets a lawyer before going down to the police station. And initially, he's letting the lawyer take the lead, which again is the smart thing to do. But then he pipes up and he said, it's Mary Ann Nolan, isn't it?" And John's like, "What did you say?" And he plays in the recording because Mary Ann is the same wrong name he said on the phone. And then Alan just breaks down. He's like, "Oh, well, yep, that's me caught." And then he says, "He'll never forgive me, will he?" And John just goes, "Sure he will," even though he has no idea who he's talking
Yeah.
about.
I like that.
Yeah. So off screen, I guess Alan tells them everything. John is going to fly to Indianapolis, where Turner and his wife are currently staying with his brother. Like a real brother this time, I guess. He meets some local cops at the airport and they set up shop in a house nearby and they're ready to grab him once they have a confession. Back in New York, they're setting up too so Alan can call him and get him to confess. And he's nervous. I'm nervous too. I would never be able to pull this off. Every time I'm listening to like a true crime thing and they get some poor normal person to try to get a confession out of someone, I couldn't do it. I would be so nervous. Um so they make the call and Turner picks up and he's kind of dumb. He has no suspicions whatsoever. He says he never thought he'd hear from Alan again. He says he was reading about the murder in the papers and he can't believe what a big deal everyone's making about it.
Yeah.
Dude, um he says you didn't believe me when I told you that I killed that girl, Mary Alice Nolan, on New Year's night, right? Right? You didn't believe me that I stabbed her 18 times? He doesn't say all that, but he very clearly is like, I told you I did it. And that's a confession. John and like 40 other cops surround this house and arrest him while he's still on the phone with Alan. But he goes with them without incident. right in front of his poor wife. And in the last scene of the movie, John is seeing Eileen and Betty off. Betty is taking her to school, and then I guess she's heading to Cancun. I don't know what Betty wants to do anymore. He tells Betty that he'll keep in touch, and they start to drive off, and then he flags them down and jumps in the car with them.
Says
And then
he's
we get
never been to Syracuse, so
oh, and then we get some ending text that says, quote, following a visit to his prison cell by Alan Cahill, John Charles Turner hanged himself. His baby was stillborn, or right at the moment his baby was being born was stillborn, which I doubt it was at the right at that moment. That seems unlikely, but that really broke my heart for his wife. Cahill died soon after in a fire at his apartment, and John is still working as an NYC detective. The end. Do you want me to tell the real story real quick?
sure.
Okay. So the real killer's name was John Wayne Wilson. John Wayne is simply a bad luck name. Stop naming your children that. He was staying in New York with a friend named Geary Guest. They were at the same bar as Roseanne Quinn on New Year's night. Guest left the bar alone around 11 p.m. Wilson met Quinn and they went back to her apartment. And as I said at the beginning, he couldn't get it up. He claimed that Quinn started screaming at him and mocking him and telling him to get out of his apartment. They struggled. He grabbed a knife and stabbed her to death. After she died, he covered her with a robe, showered, tried to clean up any evidence that he was there, and left. He did immediately confess to his friend, but Guest really thought he was lying, and Guest did give him money to go to Miami, where Wilson picked up his wife, and they did go back to Indiana. Quinn wasn't discovered until January 3rd when the school was worried that she hadn't shown up or called in. I won't go into details, but the state of her remains is not consistent with Wilson's version of events. Wilson was arrested in Indiana and after a couple of months got into an argument with a guard where he threatened to kill himself. The guard taunted him and asked him if he wanted some help. He threw in some extra bed sheets at him, which he used to hang himself. No charges were filed against the guard. That's what I found.
Okay. Uh, do you think this is the first time I've seen this? Did I see a repeat of it? Or did I watch the original airing?
This is the first time you've seen it.
It was the first time I saw it. Do you give it a classic or a trash it?
Oh, I don't know. I think it floats in an in-between space to me because I think it's a notable oddity, but it's not very good.
I'm going to give it a classic, and it's weird. I don't like any of the characters in this movie except for two minor characters. The rest of them do nothing for me. While the rest of them either I'm on the scale from I'm ambiguous to them to that person's grading. Uh, George Segal was big whenever I was growing up. He's in The Blackbird. He was in Duchess and the Dirt Weather Fox. He was in all these big 70s movies. And Fun with Dick and Jane was probably the last one that I saw him on the big screen. And this movie, with him throwing on a Brooklyn accent and having this big cigar, being almost like a cartoon character, he was the character I liked the least. But the story I thought was really well done in spite of the acting. So even though the acting bothered me and I wasn't thrilled with the performances and the Shelley Hat character was completely meaningless, um, I I I was into it. I How does this thing work out? And I thought the ending was good. I thought it was a proper ending, and apparently it stayed pretty true to how things went.
I do
So
appreciate
I,
that it wasn't like embellished for dramatic effect, you know.
yeah. So this is one of those few movies. I'm not impressed with the job that the actor's done, but I would recommend people see this. I thought it was I thought that the story was well done.
Okay, so you like the scripts. You just think maybe another cast was needed. And let's get rid of Shelley Hack's character.
Kelly Hack's character and George Segal, who's a fine actor,
Mhm.
uh, it was just that that was one of the things that they said on the broadcast that we watched, the rebroadcast, that George Segal in his first TV movie, yeah, he
Ah,
treated it like a TV movie. He just threw a really crappy accent on, stuck a cigar in his mouth. And even in those touching moments he was supposed to be having with Eileen, his daughter, hey, there was nothing emotional or touching about it.
mm.
Yeah, and you probably haven't noticed I'm not the best husband in the world. Oh, Dad, you were a fine husband. Nothing like that, just whatever. So, but I would give it a minor classic. I thought that the story overcame the bad performances.
Okay, you know what? You've convinced me. I will give it a minor classic too.
Yeah, and it does put a bow because looking for Mr. Goodbar ends with the murder, you know,
Yeah. Hmm.
and it does put a bow on the rest of the story. So okay, I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
All right. Well,
What are we doing next week?
by the way, I've been battling COVID this week along with my wife, Kathy, and that's why I've had Kleenexes. But you're going to need a ton of these for next week's movie because we are watching Something for Joey, starring Mark Singer and a very, very young, in a small role, but a very, very young Steve Guttenberg.
And this sounds like a tragedy.
No, Something for Joey gets a bicycle. All right, Joey, even though you have
Okay.
no arms or legs and you're just a head, here's a bicycle. It's something for Joey. That's
Okay.
out. So, uh, yeah, the kid was just a head, and he made a fine living when he became an adult as a bowling ball. Uh, you know I've had COVID. Everything's funny right now because I'm so foggy. So, but anyway, something for Joey. You can only find it on YouTube. I couldn't find it anywhere else. But I did start watching the first few minutes, and the quality is pretty good. So it's not going to
Good.
be fuzzy. So, all righty. Well, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Bye.